on WGDR 91.1 and WGDH 91.7.
Good morning, Canna friends and Canna foes. Welcome to another In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio, the one and only all cannabis talk shows on the airwaves. Guys, we have a great show coming your way today. We have Matt Berger, Bubba Kush, the guy who's responsible for a lot of the Kush strains. We're going to talk to him as well. We have Brandon Barberio, my co-host, on the line from Phoenix, Arizona, and we also have Jeff Wells going to be calling in here shortly. I think he's calling me right now. He's going to have to wait 1 second. But another cultivator with over 37 years experience and has a lot of strains under his belt, guys. So, Brandon, how you doing today?
I am excellent. And I got to tell you, I am super pumped about this show. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bubba Kush. I always have been. And, you know, this is just like, for me, this is kind of like a dream come true because now I get to talk to the source. And that's just way, way more fun than, you know, reading all the articles and hearing all the stories. So,
well, we're going to talk to Matt. We're going to see, you know, how the whole Kush developed, how it came about. Because I mean, there's lots of stories out there. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that take claim to stuff. Matt's been well documented. It's going to be a great story. Jeff's going to be another great story we're going to have on here shortly, guys. So don't go anywhere. We're going to go right to the Canna News here, and we'll be right back. This is Joseph Smith with In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio, and now for your local and national Canna News for October 25th, 2019. USDA outlaws rules for importing hemp plants and seeds from other countries. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, quietly updated guidance last week to clarify that hemp seeds and plants may be imported from other countries. As was the case under previous announcement focused on seeds. The requirements for importing the full plant from Canada are different than other countries. Plants from Canada are allowed if they are accompanied by a phytosanitary certificate from Canada's National Plant Protection Organization to verify the origin of the plant and to confirm that no plant pests are detected. For other countries, importers must fill out additional permit applications. Companies can also import hemp seeds from Canada if they produce a federal seed analysis certificate. In addition to phytosanitary certificate, those need to seek to import seeds from other countries other than Canada are subject to a custom and border protection inspection at the port of entry in order to ensure they meet animal and plant health inspection service regulations, including certification and freedom from plant pest. Prior to last week, the USDA only offered guidance on the rules for importing seeds, which it released in April. Both updates are in response to the federal legalization of hemp and its derivatives under the 2018 Farm Bill. The USDA has taken an incremental approach to the implementation process for hemp since the legalization was signed into law last December. The department said in April that it's accepting applications for intellectual property protections for seed-propagated hemp. In August, USDA said farmers operating under the 2014 Farm Bill are eligible for federal crop insurance for the 2020 planting season. The coverage will extend to all hemp farmers after the USDA releases its final regulations for the crop. USDA Deputy Secretary Steven Sensky said on Monday that the department plans to release its interim final rule on hemp within the next couple of weeks. The latest development comes after more than 3 months of interagency review of the regulations, which included input from the Justice Department and the White House Office of Management and Budget. Feds send warning letter to another CBD company over medical claims. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, sent warning letters to Florida-based CBD company on Tuesday, alleging that the business made several unsanctioned claims about the therapeutic benefits of their products. The federal agencies accused rooted apocryphy of unlawfully asserting that their cannabis products could treat some symptoms of conditions such as ADHD, Parkinson's disease, ear aches, ADHD, and autism. Those claims appeared on the company's website and social media accounts, they said. Certain products appear to be marketed as dietary supplements, which FDA currently prohibits as it works to develop an alternative regulatory scheme for CBD. FDA and FTC have issued joint warning letters to a company marketing unapproved cannabidol products with substantiated claims to treat teething and ear pain in infants, autism, ADHD, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's disease. FDA treats cannabis-derived compounds the same way as any other substance. We examine potential regulatory pathways for the lawful marketing of the cannabis product, protection, and promoting public health through sound, science-based decision-making remains our top priority. While they have sent numerous warning letters that focus on the matters of significant public health concerns to CBD companies, and these actions should send a message to the broader market about complying with FDA requirements. FTC's complaint with the company is that it violated the laws that require businesses to advertise medical claims about their products to have competent and reliable scientific evidence to back them up, which could include human clinical trials. Making or exaggerating such claims through product name, website name, meta tags, or other means without proper evidence is also prohibited. Rooted Apocryphy must respond to the agencies within 15 working days to explain what steps it's taken to resolve the issues. If the company fails to do so, it is subject to legal action, including the possible seizure of its products or an injunction. It may also have to compensate customers. In April, the FDA sent warning letters to 3 other CBD companies that it said was making unauthorized claims about the medical benefits of their product. FTC also submitted warning letters to 3 separate CBD companies for allegedly advertising misleading statements about their products last month. These letters are examples of the agency's use of enforcement discretion. Former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb, who has recently suggested that the federal government should be involved in regulating state marijuana programs, clarified in March that the agency is only going after companies that make especially misleading claims about their products. Michael J. Fox Parkinson's Foundation urges Congress to pass 3 marijuana research bills. Alien advocacy group that is dedicated to finding treatment options for Parkinson's disease is backing 3 pieces of marijuana research legislation in Congress. The Michael J. Fox Foundation, named after the act, who has Parkinson's and established a nonprofit, said last week that lifting barriers to cannabis research, including rescheduling the plant under the Controlled Substances Act, is necessary to promote studies verifying marijuana's potential therapeutic benefit for conditions such as Parkinson's patients. In a letter to the Senate sponsor of the last piece of legislation, Senator Dick Durbin, in June, the foundation stated that cannabis' current classification under federal law and the inadequate quality of cannabis grown at the only federally authorized manufacturing facility has meant that researchers do not have the proper materials to conduct the necessary research. The foundation noted that it has submitted comments to the Food and Drug Administration arguing in favor of rescheduling in 2018 and 2019. It also applauded the Drug Enforcement Administration for announcing that it would take steps to approve additional federal cannabis farms for research. FBI investigates whether Sacramento pot businesses paid bribes to public officials. The FBI has been investigating whether Sacramento area-based cannabis businesses have made payoffs to public officials in the region in exchange for favorable treatment and license approvals. The source, with direct knowledge of FBI questioning of area marijuana businesses, figured that they are investigating. Figures say the investigation began in the past few months and predates the disclosure of one of Sacramento's major marijuana dispensary owners had ties to the Ukrainian man indicated last week, along with 2 former associates of Rudy Giuliani, President Trump's personal attorney. But the investigation comes 2 months after the FBI announced in a podcast that it was seeing a public corruption threat emerge in the expanding cannabis industry and asked for any tips involving public corruption and the industry, which generates millions of dollars in revenue and involves licenses that can go for as much as $500,000. The disclosure comes one day after the Sacramento officials called for an immediate investigation into the city's dispensary licensing system and how the ownership group had managed to obtain 8 permits to operate dispensaries, far more than any other operators. Karapetyan's Roseville attorney, Brad Hirsch, said Monday that he has instructed his clients not to speak with journalists and that he has received numerous calls from national media outlets, including the Washington Post and the New York Times. Karapetyan has donated to various Sacramento politicians, including $2,000 in the 2016 campaign for Mayor Darrell Steinberg and other $1,000 from organizations in which Karapetyan is listed as owning. Steinberg spokeswoman Mary Lynn Valinga said Steinberg does not know Karapetyan and added that the mayor was donating the money received from him to the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Sacramento out of abundance of caution. She added Monday that Steinberg has not heard anything from the FBI. Pro golfer Matt Every suspended for medical marijuana use. For the second time this year, the Professional Golfers Association has suspended one of its players for medical cannabis use. In each case, the suspension was for 3 months. Matt Every, whose suspension went into effect on October 18th, tells the Golf Channel that he uses cannabis to treat mental health conditions. He's a legal patient in Florida. Every says his physician of 30 years has determined that he is neither an acceptable candidate to use prescription Z-class drugs. Additionally, these classes of drugs can be highly addictive and harmful to the human body and mind. For him, cannabis has proven to be by far the safest and most effective treatment. Z-class drugs are usually sleep aids like Ambien and Lunesta. Valium and Xanax are also used to treat anxiety and insomnia. This is Every's second PGA suspension. In 2010, he was docked 3 months after being arrested for cannabis possession in an Iowa hotel. Garrigus agrees with Every that the PGA should alter its pot policy. If you have some sort of pain and CBD or THC may help that, and you feel like it can help you and be prescribed by a doctor, then what are we doing? If you can buy it in a store, then why are we testing for it? That's my opinion. Judge tosses cannabis charge for man who legally purchased CBD product. A Hanover County judge tossed a cannabis case after the state lab told him it can't tell the difference between real pot and CBD product Virginians can legally buy at gas stations. A Louisa County man was charged with having cannabis even though he legally bought it at a CBD product store in Charlottesville. They call it hemp flower, and it's being sold in stores and gas stations across the state. And it looks a lot like illegal cannabis. Robert Mason never thought a fun day trip to a local amusement park could end so badly. But that a routine traffic stop in Hanover County quickly escalated when the sheriff's deputy said he smelled cannabis. The officer field tested it and it tested positive for marijuana. But Mason bought the CBD product legally at a store in Charlottesville. He even handed the deputy a receipt. There's nothing illegal. The officer didn't arrest him, but ticketed the 24-year-old for possession of marijuana. Mason tried to argue, and those receipts are easy to come by, the officer said. Anyone can go in the stores and see that they openly sell hemp flower. It looks a lot like pot, but it's considered industrialized hemp. It was legalized at the federal level in 2018 through the Farm Bill and was signed by President Donald Trump in December. Virginia lawmakers followed suit, passing emergency legislation on March 21st, 2019. But police currently don't have a field test that can tell the difference between legally possessed hemp and illegal cannabis. And according to a memo from the Virginia Department of Forensic Science, it also currently can't test how much THC is in a product. It can find if there's more than 1%, but it can't test the exact level. I'm not sure that the prosecutors and the law enforcement is equipped to deal with this issue right now, said Jay Brenneman, the defense attorney on Mason's case. Brenneman has been a lawyer for over 11 years now and has handled countless cannabis cases. A document provided by the store that sold the hemp flower to Mason shows a level of 0.28%, which Brenneman pointed out is under the legal limit. The judge's decision of not guilty was a major victory for Robert Mason, who did face jail time. The state's lab says it is working on a way around the issue. According to the court transcript, the lab is close to a potential solution for tested levels of THC. But until then, simple marijuana cases in the Commonwealth may not be held up in court. And that's it for your local and national Canada news for October 25th, 2019. All right, and that's it, guys, for our Can News. Some interesting stuff happening this week. Not a very crazy week. That's too crazy going on that we're used to here. Right? Usually we're used to like all these crazy things happening, but this week's been a little bit quiet, which we appreciate. Now, guys, everybody's here. We're going to have a great show. Again, if anyone wants to give us a call, 802-454-7762 will get you live into the studio, and you can talk to any of us guys that are here. Also, if you guys want to live stream us, www.wgdr.org, or our new partners over at Stoned Age Magazine, stonedagemagazine.com, where you can live stream the show as well. So you can't really miss us anywhere. Today's show, guys, we're really, really stupid excited, as me and Brandon were talking about earlier. Matt Bubba Berger is on the show with us this week. And we also have Jeff Wells. So, guys, if you never heard or have never tried or consumed any sort of cannabis in your life, and you never heard the word Kush, then
Obviously, you've been living under a rock.
Right, literally. So, yeah, so, Matt, welcome to the show. As always, we love to have, guys on and talk about what they do. But, for the people
Thank you.
No problem, man. But for the people who don't know who you are, let's explain a little bit about who you are personally and a little bit about your history and how you got into this whole genetics thing.
Long story. I remember the earliest memories I have of growing. I was popping seeds in my backyard when I was 13, 14. So I've been growing my whole life. In fact, we used to pop seeds in my agriculture class in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And my teacher would find them after they got about a foot tall, and he'd chop them down. But at least he'd let them get that big. Give us some, fuel to keep doing what we're doing.
Right. Now,
it's a long story.
Nice. I mean, from what I understand, the whole Kush thing was just a found seed, right?
Yeah, that was back in, 91, 92. We were getting a lot of weed down in Miami, and my buddy Alec and Corey went down and picked up an ounce of, it was called Super Knot, and we found the seed in it, and what came out of it definitely wasn't Super Knot. I don't know what the cross was, or what pollinated it. But yeah, that's pretty much how we found it. We had no clue that there was a Hindu Kush strain. We didn't even probably know that there was a Hindu Kush Valley or a region. It's purely coincidental that we named it Kush from my buddy's older brother, Frankie. Frankie would come in the room and he'd be like, "Where are the Kush berries at? Where are the Kush berries?" And we were like, "Kush, that's a cool name, but it doesn't taste anything like berries." But Kush stuck.
Yeah.
That started like Orlando, Gainesville crew. There were 6 of us that pretty much had a hand in growing the OG. Well, before it was called OG.
Right.
It didn't get the OG tag. Till the late 90s.
Now, you've developed a couple different strains of Kush, right? I mean, the OG...
we started the very first crosses we did back in Gainesville. I can't remember. I don't talk to my old roommate anymore, and I can't remember what we made the cross of. But we called it KX, KY, and KZ. When I brought the Kush out to LA in '96, I only brought one of those. I brought the KY. The other 2 we eventually quit growing. Our space was really limited. But the KY survived. and I brought that to L.A., but it started doing something weird. My boy Josh, Josh D, OG,
Mm-hmm.
So him and Kenji from Cypress Hill, they both get rashes whenever they bump up against the KY. They get bumps on their arms. It was the strangest thing. So we figured out that, they were both allergic to it, so we eventually quit growing the KY. It was weird.
Wow.
But the Kush, the Kush survived, and it's a miracle that it did, really. I brought it in a bag of, I had a Ziploc bag with a tiny bead of water at the bottom of it, and I took cuttings here in Florida, rolled them up in the plastic bag, and stuck it in my rollerblade boot, threw it in my luggage, flew to L.A., immediately cloned everything, put everything in cubes, and only one of the Kush clones survived and rooted, which was a miracle.
Right.
Everything, the Bubba was a super hardy plant. That thing, the original Bubba was so resilient to stress and pests and molds and everything, really. And every one of those clones popped, or every one of those cuttings popped, but only one of the Kush did.
We've talked to some cultivators here in the show before, and it's always unique, like how some of these, some of the most well-known strains were just either a mistake, a seed, something that wasn't supposed to live. It was down to one strain. And we always, we've talked about how we've lost some of these genetics over the years between house fires and floods and all these crazy things that can happen to people if you don't share your strains, right?
Unfortunately,
right.
You don't have backup, you lose them.
Right. For you guys, you're out in California, right? When you met the Cypress Hill gang, basically, right? Which really helped propel the whole Kush thing, right? So,
absolutely.
Even back in the, I remember back in the day. Kush used to fetch the highest dollars, right? It wasn't easy to find.
We were getting eight grand a pound,
right? Which, today, nowadays, that's a lot of money for a pound of weed, right? Even an ounce of that is ridiculously expensive, right? The story goes on. And now, even for you though, we were talking about how much how coveted these strains were. You never really took any money from it though, right? You're sharing strains. You did this with a couple friends of yours.
I pretty much did it for the love of the plant, and it was kind of a side gig. I never thought that it was going to be legal,
right?
So I always had another gig that I would be working on, which was the film industry. I was working doing movies and commercials, production stuff, and I figured I was going to end up, in the film industry. And then when cannabis went legal, I got that call from my buddy in Colorado and said, "Hey, you want to start up a dispensary?" I was like, "Hell yeah!"
Right, and that leads us to another thing. You guys started up a dispensary. You have one rolling out there now. You have your hands in a couple other ones, correct?
Me personally, no. I recently joined the Calyx Peak team. Mm-hmm. That's the same company that has Josh D. So we kind of reunited, in a sense. I'm excited.
Right?
you guys are actually the first to know.
That's awesome. Well, I did see
so I can't talk too much about all the details, but it's exciting stuff. We got a lot going on.
Now, what's the plan for this new collaboration here?
I always wanted to, celebrate the Bubba Kush line or strain with a line of supporting crosses. Mm-hmm. And, I've been talking to, other breeders and about doing collaborations and developing, different crosses from different guys, and really just hammer down the full family of Bubba Kush crosses and have a flavor for everybody.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. 'Cause, I mean, Josh has been around with you guys from the beginning, really, when this whole thing happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh, him and I moved in together in '96. When I first moved to LA, he was friends with one of my good buddies from college. That's how Joshy and I met.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved in together, we started talking about growing, and I told him about the Kush, and we were like, let's get it out here. So I flew back home in August '96 and picked up my crosses, and yeah, that was the next chapter of the OG Kush story for sure. Silver Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Silver Lake, California. Good times. No, it's really nice to be back, working with Josh again. I'm sure we'll be doing collaboration stuff too in the future. We'll see how everything rolls out, but I'm excited for all the possibilities that are ahead of us.
I mean, it's great that it's come full circle, but could you ever have imagined that this would have taken off in the way it has?
No, honestly. Like I said, I always had a backup plan. I really didn't see this coming. I have a really good head for marketing, and if I saw this coming, I would have done a lot more to protect myself.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, which is interesting, because we talked to a lot of these guys that have been cultivators for many years, who are responsible for strains. It's like, how do you get ownership of this work, right? We had the Philos Galaxy for a little while there. That now,
yeah,
now it's kind of now it's kind of interesting with the way that went. And as we all know,
and then there was like that lull there. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, I'm trying to talk to Jeff here. I mean, what's unique about this is, so you guys develop these strains, they go huge, right? I mean, obviously, it's hard to get the accreditation to people who developed the strain originally, and you guys did this back in the 90s, which is amazing. Now, what a lot of people don't understand, I don't think, really, and your Bubba Kush comes from another strain that's very hard to get. It's not an easy thing to get, which is the Northern Lights, right?
Yeah, that came from seeds that I got from a cat named Fat Larry. He lived in New Orleans. He was one of my high school buddies' college frat brothers, and he got all his weed shipped in from Northern California. And he gave me a bag of seeds and said, "Here." I asked him what they were, and he said, Northern Lights, most likely. And I was like, okay, so I have a mixed bag of stuff I'm not sure about. But I popped the ones that looked really good. And again, we didn't really have that much space. And what came out was this really stocky, magical plant. It was like magic, like if you were walking through a forest of like morning dew and oak, and it had this amazing smell to it and taste. But it was such a stocky little tree. It grew. I mean, literally the stalks were like baseball bats. I mean, it was an amazing bushy plant. Didn't get tall at all. I just decided to call it Bubba, because that's what I called everybody back then. That's why people call me Bubba. It got reflected back on me. I call all my friends Bubba. So I named it Bubba, after all my friends. Was it Northern Lights? It definitely was, but I couldn't tell you if it was, crossed with anything, or if it had hints of something else in it, or where or how it was grown.
Right.
So it could have been, who knows, back then how they were growing in NorCal. It was probably outdoor.
Right? Especially back then, right? I mean,
yeah. So who knows what pollinated it?
I mean, that brings up an interesting question, because it's always like indoor, outdoor, or like greenhouse now, right? When we get back, though, I want to talk to you a little bit about that and a little bit about the culture change that you've seen in the last, 20, 30 years, because, I mean, obviously you've been in it, right? And you've been successful with it. So I want to talk about that. But right now, guys, we're going to have to take a break. You're listening to WGDR Plainfield, WGDH Hardwick. This is 91.1 FM and 91.7. You guys can live stream us at StoneAgeMagazine.com. And right now, we're going to do the strain of the week with Brandon Barberio. This week, we have Sweet Black Angel.
I'm Brandon Barberio, your cannabis expert for In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR. This week's strain of the week is the Sweet Black Angel. The Sweet Black Angel is an indica dominant hybrid. It's an 80-20 cross, and it was created by the Silver Surfer Haze and the Black Dominica strains. Like its parents, the buds have a fantastic appearance. They are small and dense in a 4-inch green spade. Their shaped nugs are deep with purple and black undertones with lots of elegant flowery white hairs. These nugs are super powdery with tiny white crystals, and they're always dripping with sticky resin. One thing is for certain, the aroma is sweet with the Black Angel. It makes this bud even more resistible. Its buttery flavor is like a rich, dank coffee undertone with a mild lemon twist. The taste is hard to describe, but it's very much like a rich citrus-flavored coffee with a dash of blueberry. Not only is the flavor delicious, but it also packs an intensing high. It first hits you, building euphoria, and immediately lifts your mood and leaves your head feeling light and free of pain. Depending on how much bud you like to smoke, this bud could take you from being super energetic and social to completely sedated and couch-locked, but extremely happy and joyful nonetheless. The moderate effects of the THC levels coming in at 18% are really good with the Black Sweet Angel, and they're ideal for treating conditions in patients such as anxiety, arthritis, chronic pain, fatigue, gastrointestinal disorder, headaches, insomnia, muscle spasms, PTSD, and stress. Once again, I'm Brandon Barberio, your cannabis expert for In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR.
It's stimulating, mind-expanding, safer to use than alcohol. It's the in thing, the hula hoop of the jet generation, and as much a part of growing up as smoking corn silk behind the back fence. Such are the myths concerning marijuana. Myths that lull thousands of young people into experimenting with the noxious weed. The facts are otherwise. Marijuana is an intoxicating, mind-muddling drug. Its use can lead to abnormal behavior, to psychological dependence, and to abuse of other drugs. The human brain, after all, is made for thinking, not fumigating. It's hardly a tinker toy for experimenting with drugs. This has been a public service message of the American Medical Association and your local station.
All right, and we are back. Another great strain of the week. This week, Brandon, you gave us a Sweet Black Angel. How'd you find this one?
So this one's actually more of a West Coast strain. I've been looking for a lot of medicinal strains because a lot of the caregiving that I've been doing lately has been dealing with a lot of like gastrointestinal disorder as well as like premenstrual cramps. And, you know, they've been really focused on the whole type of digestion and lower system. So I've been focusing on strains that were focusing on the lower lymphatic endocannabinoid system.
Right, it's another great strain. I mean, obviously, guys, we bring you the strain of the week every week to give you a little bit of the medical history and what you can find when you use these strains. Obviously, when you're medicating, all strains will affect you quite differently.
It's like our disclaimer, right?
Well, I mean, a lot of us could talk about this, right? Because, I mean, and Matt and Jeff can even go in on this, could be me being cultivators for many, many years. You know, the biggest thing we hear is how people feel, new users feel when they take cannabis, whether it's they ingest it or smoke it or whatnot, whether, you know, and 90% of the times the biggest complaint we hear is it makes me anxious, right? So a lot of it's just cannabis strain knowledge, right? Kind of like, you know, Matt's Kush, you know what I mean? Like, typically, this is more of a sativa dominant plant. You know, you'd think Kush that you'd be, you know, an indica kind of a thing. So the name always doesn't reflect what's going to happen to you when you smoke it, and everybody gets a little bit something different. But the reason why we do is when you're looking to take it medically, you know, you should know what these strains are. You should know what they do to you. You should know what to expect. You should know the high, where it's going to go. And again, if you are medicating for a certain reason, what strain's going to work best for you? What you should look out for, right? Which is why the Bubba Kush is so nice, because the Northern Light strain has been you know, well sought after strain for years. It's not like it's something that, you know, we have a flooded market of it ever. You know what I mean? It seems like it's one of those strains that are kind of, at least up here in the Northeast, something we don't see a lot of, you know?
No,
definitely.
Everything, you know, a lot of the old stuff you don't see around anymore. You don't see cactus or hash plant. I mean, like a true old school skunk. It's hard to find those guys.
Right?
I've been trying to find somebody that had the original Gainesville green for a long time, and people have showed me stuff, and I'm like, no, that looks like juicy fruit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've had Rick Nye on the show, who's been dubbed the great grandfather of hybrid cannabis, who takes the claim to the Gainesville green. So if you haven't talked to him yet, maybe he's a guy you might want to talk to about that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what's his name?
Rick Naya.
Rick Naya.
Yeah. So we've had him on the show numerous times. Oh yeah, we've had we've had him on the show a few times. He's been down to Florida a bunch of times as well. I know you're down in Florida right now enjoying the beautiful weather. Right?
The Florida steam.
It's that beautiful time of year down there, right? I mean, right now we're all right up here, so we don't have to worry about too much about that. But I mean, now we talked about a little bit of history about, you know, Kush, the Bubba Kush, how, you know, where it came from, the seed that you guys have found, you know what I mean? And obviously we know the heights to where that strain has gone between numerous crosses and you know, I'll be honest with you, it's I mean, most of the people I talk to, I mean, what is everybody looking for right now? It's either a skunk, which is almost impossible, it seems like, a diesel, a Kush, or a cheese, right? I mean, or, you know, I mean, those seem to be like the four main things that everybody just kind of goes off the top. Like, you know, hey, I'm a huge cheese fan. I love cheese. I love Kush. My girlfriend freaks out over Kush. You know what I mean? I think I smoked some Kush this morning in honor. You know, if I smoked that, I can't say I did or didn't. But anyways, but
that's crazy. I mean, everybody uses Kush in their recipe somewhere down the line,
right?
Yeah.
And as you know, if you guys, you know, if you're still supporting the Phyllis Galaxy, it's still there. I mean, you can check it out and what has come from the Kush. You know what I mean? Yeah, I had, you know, a couple of great strains this week, and I probably
can't. Galaxy just on Kush.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. It's like it's kind of like
Galaxy.
Right, it's kind of like in cooking. You have like your four main sauces. You know what I mean? And it's like these are the basis of cooking. And like I was saying, in cannabis, it seems to be the diesels, the skunks, the sours, the Kushes. You know, that's what these people are looking for. You know what I mean? The chems, and that's how, you know, most of the people I talk to look for their cannabis. But now, you know, we have Jeff on the line. I believe Jeff's here too, right? Jeff, you there?
Yep, you hear me?
All right, so we also have Jeff Wells on the line, guys.
What up, Jeff?
Hey, what's happening, Bubba?
Now we know you guys are great friends, and again, I thank you guys for taking the time today. I know it's been crazy busy with harvest season and stuff like that. You know, I've heard about this great project going on in Hawaii. I know Matt's down in Florida. I know you guys have all these great things on the horizon. But let me ask you a quick question. You guys have been doing this so long. It's been amazing the last, 3 to 5 years up here in the Northeast. It's been longer than that out west. But since, the recent legalizations and efforts throughout the country, how has it been for you guys? Like this whole transformation over the last 30 years? Because, starting off back in the day to, where it went in the early 90s, mid 90s to where it is now.
Yeah, let me speak there, Bubba. So we equate it to almost being like in war.
Right.
So like World War I, World War II, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's changed so much over the years. It was basically in the closet here in Alaska and Hawaii and all these other places I grew. We were growing in shipping containers up here in Alaska underground, just because the penalties were so harsh. So yeah, it's really refreshing to see it come out of the closet, and I could develop some of these strains, some of the strains you were talking about, the old school skunks and the dub, the old school diesel and all those, but and Bubba knows I got all those old genetics in my vault. So I'd love to get them out to the people out there.
Yeah, well, you send some my way. I like genetics.
I'll be more than willing and happy to take those from you and grow land-raised cannabis. That's the goal.
Yep. I got the old Panama Red and Acapulco Gold. It's basically just got a bunch of old school landrace strains that were bred into that. And, as the Mananuska Thunderfuck was bred over the years, made into a hybrid with the Afghanis. And that's what most people have smoked or think of as MTF. So the old school MTF, not too many people have tried. That was a real safeguarded strain, and only a few people still have that strain. I'm one of 3 that I know of that have the actual pure Mananuska Thunderfuck. So, yeah, those old school lander strains are what, I really like and dig on. And, Bubba and I kind of have the same fetishes for cannabis. I love the OG Kushes. Anything Hindu Kush, I'm a lover of it. So.
We talk about this a lot. It's like, the Hindu Kush, the old Hindu strains. Everybody loves the Hindu strains. The Kush that came out, you guys brought an amazing Kush on accent, right? Now, there's been a lot.
Yeah, there's no relation between the Kush and the Hindu Kush.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say with a lot of people.
If there is, it'd be really coincidental.
Right. Well, because
it really would be.
A lot of people don't realize a lot of the namesakes from cannabis is derived from like its area, right? Like the place where it's come from geographically.
Exactly.
It's kind of a lot like
all
wine.
the old strains.
Yeah, a lot of these old strains, Afghani, it was an Afghani.
Wowie Wowie.
Yes.
Yeah, they were all regional, all named regionally, absolutely.
So, a lot of these guys will go out to these regions, and like you guys, you go out to these regions, you find these beautiful plants, and you either take a seed or a clipping home, right? And then you develop and work your strains back, cross them, or breed them out, whichever way you want to do it. So, when you guys named Kush, like Matt was saying earlier, it was kind of almost like, it was just, nothing was related to where you guys actually found out where it came from area-wise, because it was basically the Kush area, right?
Yeah. Well,
so now you guys
had no internet back then.
Yeah, right. Now imagine if we did, right? So now you guys, High Times has even given you guys, the moniker of the #1 cannabis strain, right? Ever. So
every year.
It's phenomenal the way.
Amen.
Right? Thank you to High Times. It's phenomenal. Yeah. It's phenomenal to see the way this plant has really taken the industry by storm. Brandon, last week we did the Bubba Kush as well, right? And even the medical value of it is amazing, right, Brian? Right, Brandon?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of the most sought-after strains for medical patients. You know, I mean, healing value is a lot for people, you know, and when we get into what Kush does specifically for patients, I mean, it's definitely the most sought-after strain for cannabis users medically.
No, also the Bubba Kush specifically, you know, the ratio of cannabinoids are so perfect. It's you know, everybody talks about the medical qualities of Bubba Kush as well. It has high CBD.
I totally agree. From a breeder standpoint, that's why I bred the Bubba Kush so much. It's just such a great strain for medicinal values. You know, I started doing that years ago just because of, you know, the positive effects that cannabis had on different ailments, and Bubba Kush is one that I stuck with and bred, and that's why, you know, I got over 40 hybrids of the Bubba Kush alone, you know.
Now, when you guys are back, I mean, it's always fun talking to people because, I mean, I've been a cannabis user since I was, you know, 12, 13 years old. I'm 42 now, right? So, and like we always talk about the journey, you know, every one of our journeys, it's like, you know, I never realized there's any sort of medical benefit from it until, you know, a few years ago, seeing some cancer kids be cured, right, to help live through it. When did you guys realize that this could be really used medicinally?
I got a good story for that. When I had my dispensary back in 2000, I'd say let's just say the year was 2009, 2010. I had this one patient that would come in my dispensary every morning, at least a half hour before we even opened, because he knew I was there cleaning and getting ready for the day. So he'd come in and talk to me before he'd go to work. And this guy was an old ex-stuntman. And he comes to my store one day, and he is crippled over. I'd say he's, you know, in his mid-70s. And he can't stand up straight, and his hands are clenched in fists. And he comes in my room and he's like, Matt, oh my God, I can't move. I gotta work today. I can't move my hands and I can't stand up. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm sorry, buddy. Here, try these. He was like my guinea pig. So we had, I had just been given some edibles from a company that wanted me to sample them. And I always guinea pig people. Which was, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But so I said, here, eat these. And he goes and he eats them and he takes a seat and he's sitting there watching me clean. You know, about 10, 15 minutes go by. He's like, no, I don't feel anything. Another 10, 15 minutes go by. He's like, Matt, I think I feel something. And I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever, you know. And another 10, 15 minutes go by, and he really did work. That's when I realized how medicinally, you know, I mean, the guy couldn't move. And I know he wasn't full of shit. I mean, he broke in his body. I've heard all his stories. I mean, the guy just didn't stop. I love the guy, but, yeah, it was distracting in the mornings. But, yeah, he got right up and he worked on bicycles. That was his job. So he had to use his hands
all the time.
And yeah, so he got up and thanked me very much, and went off and enjoyed his merry day.
I mean, it's amazing to see. I mean, for me, it was kids with cancer. You know what I mean? Where people are getting their final notice of life, basically, where they're telling you this is terminal. You know what I mean? This is over, and where they don't really care what you do at that point, which is kind of really sad because
it is.
You know, usually at that point, it's a way too late. You know, sadly, obviously, isn't a cure-all, end-all for everybody, but you know, we've seen remarkable stories. So if you can catch it right, and you can use it properly, and be open to the education and the mindset, you know what I mean? What do you guys say about this huge CBD craze? I mean, this is something that, we kind of talk about a lot on the show about being like this bubble, and now everyone's talking about this bubble and, for me, there's a lot more than just CBD within cannabis that makes it valuable. But what do you guys say about this just the CBD craze right now?
I think, I I like it. Everything's becoming really mainstream. Going back to what you were asking earlier about how we've seen things change, I guess this is kind of a two-part answer here. So the other night, my mother calls me and tells me about her friend's mother, who's like 90-something years old, and she has a bad knee. And she put some cream on her knee, and it totally worked. But it was full spectrum. It didn't just have CBD. In fact, the lady got high, and she was laughing and giggling hysterically and calling her daughter and singing to her. She never had a better time in her life. But I didn't think that you could really get high from a topical, but yeah, I guess, anyway, so she experiences the medical benefits from it, and I believe you really do need full spectrum. Yeah. I don't believe that, like, CBD is great. I mean, it's been shown to, stand alone by helping, epileptic patients, seizure patients. But if you want to really cure something, I think you need the full, the menage of cannabinoids and terpenes and everything that the plant has in its natural state to really heal or cure somebody.
Right.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, Bubba.
Standalone. Yeah, CBD standalone. Yeah, it's great for certain things, but people are taking it under the assumption that it's gonna help their specific problem when it's not gonna, because it doesn't have the other parts of the medicine.
Right. I mean, we talk about that a lot, especially with the cancer treatments and like Rick Simpson oils and fecal oils, and you try and get the whole plant extraction. And with that, like we talk about this a lot, especially with like the vaping issue that we have going on in this country. Where
I got comments on that for sure.
Oh man, well, I mean, we're definitely going to talk about that next. I mean, we've got over 20 deaths now. We've got up to 2,000 people who have been sick. It's been a recent thing. So I mean, we all have our own philosophies. We believe it's metals in what they're making these components out of, not necessarily the products.
It's unfortunately, I don't want to go after it. I come from the black market. I'm definitely street. I don't ever want to lose my street cred, but poisoning people is not cool.
No.
And when you're extracting, people don't understand. When you're doing extractions, you're not just concentrating the THC. You're concentrating everything in that plant. Mm-hmm. And if you're spraying those plants with pesticides that are going to kill you and turn into cyanide, that's not cool.
Right.
So, most of these deaths and everything, I'm attributing to black market carts. And I could have told those guys that before they even came out on the news with it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And also, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a lot of bad components that are being put in these cartridges and these pens. I work with the guys from Double Barrel, and, I've learned a lot about how these pens and the cartridges are made from them. And a lot of them aren't made in a sterile environment. You're getting a cooler.
Yeah. I mean, on the Canadian side, there really isn't a vape crisis that's going on. And a lot of people really kind of feel that it's because of the federal regulation of the cannabis market, where obviously we're seeing what's happening in the United States. So let me ask you, do you think if there was a federal regulatory system in the U.S. that we would still be having these problems?
I think there's always going to be a black market. It's just always going to be there. But I think, I think the code of ethics is everybody should have their stuff tested. And if there's, any signs of, pesticides that aren't listed on your legal list of pesticides you can use, and even if so, some of those aren't that great either still. But what are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier, guys, that here in Alaska, so with our testing, we don't have any testing for chemicals here in Alaska. So the guys are feeding them, on hydroponics tables, and all those chemicals are going right out. And some of these guys are only flushing it for a day or two up here. So there has to be a flush standard for all cannabis in the U.S. So it's clean. So it's clean cannabis. That's, kind of why I help these guys develop. So we have a plant-based nutrient system that's all plant-based with no salts and stuff. And so we try to grow it, basically as clean as we can from the beginning. So with a system like that, we don't have to flush it, but we still do. And that's when you're talking about true medicinal value. I got tons of medical stories I could tell you, from a friend who was, I helped cure him of pancreatic cancer. But, I added a lot of other things into that mixture, chaga being one, and a few other things that are native here in Alaska, to come up with, a medicine that cured him. Do I know exactly what did it? No, but I know the cannabis helped do it. That's for sure. So as clean as you can grow your cannabis, that's when you're talking medical quality. And from what I've seen across the board, going into a lot of retails across the U.S., there's a lot of cannabis that isn't clean out there.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of education that still needs to go out there as well. Yep. I mean, we talk to people who claim to be master growers who don't know how to. They're like, "What's a flush? What do you mean?" You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of these guys are relying on the back of the bottle to get them by, right? So they're usually just, like everybody, they think a little bit more is better, a little bit more is better, then they wonder why their plants are yellow, and, they're having all these issues, and then, then it gets put to process because, hey, they need the money, right? I mean, like we talked a lot about is, where does the bad cannabis go? The stuff that fails tests or stuff that comes out with metals. And I mean, and like you nailed it on the head. I mean, I don't think it's just an issue in Alaska. I think it's an issue in a lot of states where the state regulations or guidelines on testing is just non-existent, right? Here in Vermont, because, we're located in Vermont, we have a unilateral dispensary system where, everything from seed to sale to self-testing is done within house, right? Which you can only imagine what that creates, right? So that moldy cannabis that fails a test, they're not throwing it away. They're going to go process it into that cart that we're having a problem with, right?
I've heard of people. I've even heard of people that are throwing all their weed in the microwave before they send it off
to the microwave.
Get tested. It kills everything. Yeah.
Well, we've heard a lot of interesting things. I mean, I've talked to a couple of different testing people that, they're talking about how you can beat the test. You know what I mean? If you want your THC to go shoot up higher, make sure that weed's super dry. You know what I mean? If you want your
people dust their stuff.
Yeah, you can dust it.
I can tell you how to do that right now. You just keep your bud when it's growing, and you'll end up with that 30% THC. If it's not caught in the testing, that's where you see all these crazy high THCs coming. Is guys are keeping their stuff when it's growing.
Yeah, so, you have a hot plant, and you just keep it wet, and you send it in wet, and all your numbers will be lower because obviously it's wet, right? It's
right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's ways around these tests. I mean, and now, we get these conversations of, these labs that are falsify and test for either, backdoor money, relationships, political, whatever.
Oh, yeah, it's been that way since the day it all started in Colorado.
Right? Which is funny because, I mean, it's been an industry that's had to fight tooth and nail to be where it's at, right? Like, we talk about people and how we really respect proper business, and it's like, this has never been a proper business. So it's interesting to see how the two mesh, you know what I mean? We go to events all the time and we see the investment industry, we see the growers industry, we see people that, have been doing the edibles for 20 or 30 years and have their own niche going, to that investor that just wants to throw $10 million at them, It's an interesting market right now. This last year has been really kind of an up and down year where we've seen, some big companies take a hit, and that's what we're kind of seeing a lot recently in the newest reports. We got PAX is laying off people. We got Mad Men what are they doing? You know what I mean? They just seem to keep going down every quarter. But enough being said of that, guys. It is.
Yeah, you got to bite my tongue on all that too.
Yeah, right. Well, you don't have to. We really don't have to. So it's an interesting market, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, and we're going to go here real quick before we go to the break, is that this market was initially, for the people, by the people, managed by the people. It was the black market was always underground, right? Now it seems like it's become very corporate, so everything's changing. You know what I mean? The whole market's changing, which is leaving a lot of people out. You know what I mean? The people with felonies, the people with previous convictions, the whole equity is all backwards and upside down.
Unless you're in California,
right? I mean, some of the
in California, you could be a selling grower, and you automatically get bumped up on the list of who gets a license.
Yeah, and that's been all recent. I mean, and most states should do this. You know what I mean? It's interesting, right? Because I think
it's cool.
Well, even in Mass here, we recently had a dispensary sue the state over that one issue. You know what I mean? Like, why do I have to pay all this money and investment, and when this person that's been in jail because of it is going to get a head start over me, which is interesting because I mean that's going to pose a lot of questions and in unique situations throughout the country. But guys, it's 1:00. We do have to take a quick break. If you guys want to give us a call, all of our phone lines are full, so I apologize about that today. 802-454-7762. You can get the office upstairs. They'll send us down notes if you guys want to give us a call. We are live streaming online on Facebook from our pages and in the Weeds. You can find us there in the Weeds group page as well. So we have a couple live feeds going on from our video. You guys can find us online, stream us at WGDR.org and also StoneAgeMagazine.com. You can find us in a few different places right now. We do got to take a quick break. It is the top of the hour. You are tuned into WGDR Plainfield, WGDH Hardwick. This is 91.1 FM and 91.7 Guard College Community Radio. And we'll be right back.
Sometimes you catch that funky breeze. You're in the weeds.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell. In this film, you will see the ease with which this vicious plant can be grown in your neighbor's yard, rolled into harmless-looking cigarettes, hidden in an innocent shoe or watch case.
If you want a good smoke, try one of these.
You will meet Bill, who once took pride in his strong will as he takes the first step toward enslavement.
Of course, if you're afraid.
Smoking the soul-destroying reefer, they find a moment's pleasure, but at a terrible price. Debauchery, violence, murder, suicide, and the ultimate end of the marijuana addict. Hopeless insanity. See this important film now, before it is too late.
A little Reefer Madness promotion right there as we talk about cannabis strains. Now our conversation is getting a little more unique right now because we're going to start getting into legalization talk. You know what I mean? We guys, if you don't know, we are talking to Matt Bubba Berger and Jeff Wells. If you guys don't know or never heard of the strain Bubba Kush, Purple Kush, OG Kush, these guys are responsible for that, and then more, right? Now, how many plants do you guys think that you guys have engineered and cultivated yourselves?
I never considered myself a breeder. I never had the ability or flexibility to really do what I, wanted to do. Going from, really small grows under basements and closets to the move into commercialism. Every piece of space had to be allocated to the grow. We couldn't really be experimenting in the early days. And now my job's totally different again. So I never really considered myself a breeder. Even though I have developed a few strains, obviously. But Jeff is a true breeder. I mean, he's the guy that put the time into, a lot of people say that they're breeders, but, they're just doing, one-offs. They're not going through the whole process of back crossing and stabilizing. And, Jeff is the guy. He's been back crossing the same genetics back and forth for, sometimes over 10 years per strain. That's the kind of guy that, is a true breeder.
Right, where he's actually get the true Fs and the variations down. A lot of people, that's a problem with our industry right now, because it seems like it's blown up. Everybody's jumping on board. They're just doing a quick cross and claiming it to be something and then sending it out, right? We've seen a lot of issues with hemp being sold wrong. Major, huge corporations are buying up all these seeds and they're not what they were told they were, whether it be hemp, THC, or certain strains. A couple of weeks ago, we had Lighthouse Genomics on, and we're talking about how to, certify your cannabis. You know what I mean? We touched base on this a little bit earlier, and you kind of chuckled with me here about the galaxy, you know what I mean? The Phylos galaxy that everybody's been talking about lately. For you guys as breeders and the origins of these strains, how do you protect it? It's a common question that we ask everybody, but how do you guys go about protecting your name and your association with these strains?
I do know Nishan over at Phylos. Mm-hmm. And, I think he's a good dude. I don't know. They're getting a lot of it. Definitely probably shouldn't have done what they did. Mm-hmm. But my impression of Nishan has always been he's an ethical dude. Mm. I think that it's going to be really weird when people start really trademarking and copywriting these strains, and how they give, the originators the credit,
right?
If they themselves weren't. There's people trying to gobble up the Bubba Kush name all the time. My trademark attorneys are constantly telling me, this guy just got denied Bubba Kush for skateboards, or this guy just got denied blah, blah, blah. So, everybody's anxious to jump on somebody else's train.
Right. Yeah, we've seen that a lot within the industry, unfortunately, where we like to say out east here, where it's like the honeymoon's over. Everybody wants their cut. Everybody's put in a few years of hard work, free work, and, they want to get somewhere right now. And as legalization moves forward, it's created a unique atmosphere throughout the country because, obviously out west, they've been doing it for years now, right? Out east, it's kind of a new thing. Matt, you're in Florida. So Florida, have you been in Florida a long time? Florida in its own right is kind of a mess, isn't it?
I haven't been out here. I'm always back and forth. I still have a lot of friends here, of course. I grew up here. Mm-hmm. It's really just highway robbery, if you ask me, what the whole system is like here. First of all, you have to get your medical card, which costs you, upwards to $300, to something. And then you have to renew it every 3 months for like $70 to $90.
Yep.
And that's a lot of money for people in Florida. You know, this isn't like California where everybody, you know, has these dream jobs. I mean, this is Florida.
Right.
We're contractors and you know, builders and stuff.
Right, and rec is not legal down there right now, and medical is, but it's not that easy to even get your hands on medical, correct?
No, and the quality is horrible. I've not seen anything come out of the dispensary that I thought was, you know, anywhere close to the quality that we get in Colorado.
Right. I think that's common. I think that's common everywhere. I mean, I think everywhere we've been in the Northeast here, and maybe even Brandon can chip in about how Arizona seems. But I mean, maybe we're just spoiled because we were used to good quality cannabis products being in the markets that we're used to, or you know, is it? Where's this issue lie? This is where I laugh and go back to the aspect of like, hey, you know, they can't hire the best growers we know because they have a felony. You know what I mean? So they hire the guy right out of college who's never had a grow before, right?
I mean, you know, I'm not sure what the whole problem here is in Florida. You know, it started with you had to have a 30-year veteran farmer on your team as your grower. Now, you know, that 30-year veteran farmer definitely wasn't growing weed. He was probably growing ornamentals or trees or, you know, whatever else you can grow here in Florida. But, you know, and every plant is different, you know. Growing cactus your whole life doesn't mean you're going to be a good weed grower. I mean, you're probably going to kill your plants.
Right.
The first couple of rounds. I mean, so I think they couldn't hire the right guy, or they have this partner now that's in the mix that thinks he knows what he's doing because he's a 30-year veteran, and he really doesn't when it comes to cannabis. You know, you may grow the most beautiful orchids in the world, but it's a different game. Right?
Definitely not the same.
No, I mean, and then we talk about this a lot too, and it's like the East Coast, West Coast markets, right? Like even like the pay scales and stuff like that. I mean, guys out west who have these big facilities are investing into good growers that they know can grow. They're paying them the money, and of course they're not going to leave, right? West here, you know, you can probably go to McDonald's and make the same amount of money as a master grower can for a dispensary in the area, and it's the same thing. We're seeing nothing but pretty much garbage products. And then the one thing that kills me is, like, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier about carts, you know what I mean? You know, we're talking about whole plant extracts. You know, I want to throw fresh pressed rosin in there because to me that's one of the best things you could ever do if it's done right, you know. It holds all of its cannabinoids the right way, and you get that entourage effect. So like the things that you never felt before are going to feel great, you know.
Agreed.
What in your opinion, I mean, is this, I mean, I want to get let's get a little technical or political with you here a little bit. I mean, obviously legalization, we're looking at it from a nationwide standpoint now. You know, we have a lot of states that are medically legal, and we got, you know, about half that are recreationally legal, right? You've been doing this for a long time. You've seen a lot of different markets. You've seen a lot of different errors, I guess you could say, within the industry. You know, if the government's going to do this right, I mean, and obviously I'd like to hear your opinion on if we should even legalize this or not. But if the government should legalize it, should there be some sort of you know, government standards that they need to have in place for things like the medical fields and the dispensaries and stuff like that?
I think it's going to start, when all that comes into effect, it's going to be a big mess for a good couple of years. You think about just one state's mess. Now you're looking at the whole country at once. And yes, you're going to have really big money coming in that is going to, you know, drive everybody else out that they can. You know, they'll be able to go in and hike up all these costs and taxes and everything that'll put the little guy out of business, but they can withstand the loss for, you know, 30 years, where your average business guy couldn't, you know, sustain a loss. I mean, big tobacco companies, they're not making money for themselves right now. They're making money for 3 generations later.
Right. Which is crazy.
It's going to be crazy. So the federal regulations, I believe, will be driven by the big guys to push everybody else out. And then once they have the control that they want, then they'll lobby to change everything to suit them again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's going to be a mess.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm looking at this, and it's like, all right, we typically every week we have Tim Fair from Vermont Cannabis Solutions on with us. He's, a resident Vermont cannabis attorney who's very well known throughout the country. Today we don't have him on, unfortunately, but we talk to Tim regularly about these ideas, these concepts. It's when we look at cannabis and then we look at shipment and interstate transport, and now we're starting to see a lot of these states that are willing to ship and receive cannabis in other countries throughout the world. Where how does the government regulate that? As we all know, they all want their piece of every little part that they can get, everything they can get taxed, every little dollar they can make off this. They're going to want to be involved.
Even though federally they're not supposed to make any money off the cannabis industry because it's federally illegal. So how does the government make money off us?
Right.
And still put us in jail?
Well, the government makes money off of
that's what bugs me.
Right? Every one of your UPS shipments or UPS SP or any of your shipments, the government owned. The trains, the government owned. You know what I mean? There's a lot of these other businesses that they will benefit from the legalization of cannabis. Like we talk about, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. Everything from not just smoking it, what we're talking about, everything right down to paper and fibers and materials for buildings and boats and paints and all these crazy things that can happen with cannabis, the things that we can make out of it, which is where I want to see it go. You know what I mean? Let's get some more hemp manufacturing. Let's get some more industrial manufacturing within this country.
That's what I find exciting.
Right? I mean, a lot of people don't realize this. We only have 2 manufacturers that can actually take hemp material and make fibers with it. And, people don't think about it because, all we hear is CBD,
really
CBD.
Machine.
Yes. Yes, and that's why we don't have one.
Machine. Yeah, it is. It's like many, many millions. It's not a cheap machine. I've actually, a good 10 years ago, I spoke to a group that has a machine up in Canada. And, that's how I found out how expensive it is to buy one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of different companies on our show too that specifically focus on hemp fibers, right? So there's only one over in Europe, and there's a few in China, and that's really the only manufacturers of these fibers. So like literally anything that you guys are wearing right now that's hemp derived, or anything that you've seen that's hemp based, that's all being shipped in. It's not being made here. It's not being made of products. It's not a Vermont natural or a Colorado or a certain product that you're buying. I got Nike hemp shoes on. They weren't made here, So
they were definitely.
I think one of the only major corporations that I know of right now that's even looking into doing hemp processing, I read was Levi's.
Yeah.
And they're working on a technology to basically make the hemp as soft as cotton, if you will, and then they're willing to release the products.
Yeah, and from what I understand, they have that now. I mean, a lot of these large companies are going to be taking it on themselves. Like, I'm sure everybody's seen Lego, right? Lego's making a huge push to make all their plastics hemp-based by the next few years, right? I mean, that's huge. I mean, this is Lego, right?
I didn't hear. I just heard that. That's really cool.
Yeah, go find out. Google it. I mean, Lego has been kind of leaking this information for a while. They're working on the hemp-based plastics, which is amazing. And the thing that kills me with all this stuff is, we talk about a lot. Henry Ford had a car, right? How many years ago now? 80 years ago, Henry Ford comes out with a car that's made out of hemp that drove on hemp.
Oh yeah,
hemp fuel.
Yeah.
So I mean, even when we talk about, now we're talking about materials, and here we are. And we have fuels that are available. Like, we talk about, methane, ethanol, all these different fuels that a lot of our governments run on in this country or other countries as well. And here we go. Now we have hemp fuel, right? Now, what's great about hemp is how fast does it take to rejuvenate a whole hemp field? You know what I mean? It's not like a tree. It's not a fossil fuel where we can kill it. And we find it doing a lot of great things in a lot of different areas. Now, for you guys, what's next for you guys? What's the next step for it's the Bubba Kush brand, right?
Yep. Bubba Kush brand is in the works. I've always envisioned it, to be a lifestyle brand, something that, the name Bubba Kush, it was a Jeopardy question for Christ's sake already.
Right.
I think that it can transcend into many markets. And I'd love to, do as much as I can. In the sporting arenas like surfing, skateboarding, all the stuff that I grew up doing.
Right.
It's a Florida, it's a California-based brand, even though the genetics started here in Florida. It really got its legs in California. But either way, it's still a beachy vibe. And, I want to make a lot of ancillary products, to, build that vibe.
Right.
And, do as much different, stuff with cannabis as I can. I definitely, want to start, doing what I've always wanted to do, get breeding programs going or collaborations with breeders.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to develop some genetics. So that's definitely in the pipeline ahead. I just, take every day as I can.
Right.
It's
we're making surfboards and skateboards. I made my first skateboards over 10 years ago out of hemp, and so we're working on that over in Hawaii right now. And we got Quicksilver is one of our investors over there, and so they're looking at doing some really cool stuff with these custom hemp boards, with buds inlaid into the boards and stuff, so they're probably cringing right now because that's kind of an IP thing for me because that's my own design. But yeah, custom surfboards with you pick your bud, we'll put it in the board kind of thing. So
the only problem with that, Jeff, is I've had buds put into sealed plastic stuff, and they turn brown after a while. You're right. You'll have a brown
the sun will
board.
Yep.
Unless you resonate it. You can, if you totally resonated it, it'd probably be okay.
You just see everything.
Well, that's interesting. You should say that, Bubba, because the purple buds that we've used in the boards, they don't change color. The purple stays purple.
Nice.
Right. We've seen some really awesome things made out of it. We've had a gentleman here in Vermont who's local to where we are, actually makes the hemp ukulele, which is great because that thing goes everywhere. It doesn't break. You know what I mean? It's high quality, high structure. The thing sounds amazing. It's made out of
not affected by humidity.
No, not at all. That's why he makes them this way. So he actually does a rosin type thing that he does himself using the fibers from the plant, which he kind of does himself. It's a beautiful thing. The way he does it. So they're making guitars out of it. Which you can easily go find online anywhere, and it's a great story with him because, he was it's bug out hemp guitars. He was just what's the worst thing for any traveling musician is humidity, the travel, your necks get warped, you have all these issues, and especially if you're one of those guys that likes to go camping, hunting, or you're an adventure guy who's bringing their their acoustic guitar with them, right? Yeah, right. So now here's another alternative fashion for something cool. And we've had him in the studio, and even he was like, there's a lot of trial and error in a lot of this, but a lot of it's real fun. The surfboard project sounds amazing. and you guys are down in Hawaii doing this right now too, right?
Yeah. I'm hooked up with a company in Hawaii called Aloha Aina, and they're based out of Kauai, and they have the only legal hemp grow. And what's unique about them is their hemp, they bred from a lot of the old school Hawaiian strains, the Kona Golds, the Kauai Electric and the Maui Wowie, the Puna Bud, and they've made hemp strains into these strains, and they're all compliant, and they're the only ones I know of doing anything like that. So yeah, I'm really stoked to be working with River and his crew over in Kauai, and we're going to be expanding, and I'm going to be doing a big breeding project, and I'll be breeding the Bubba Kush till the day I die. So it's just Bubba's got the brand deal going, so we'll see how we can work together on that down the road. But Hawaii's a big part of what I'm doing right now.
Now in Hawaii, I mean, we don't talk about Hawaii a lot because it's not really here. We don't really hear much about what's going on down there. But now, as far as the products that you guys are using to make these boards, is it all Hawaiian-grown cannabis products?
It is, yeah. So it's just all based hemp product that's grown there, and they're making a lot of lotions and tinctures from not just cannabis, but some of the native plants there too. So I'm going to, part of my breeding and cultivation, the project that I'm getting going right now, I have a lot of herbs and a lot of medicinal Hawaiian, different types of native plants incorporated into the cannabis. So we're really excited about the whole Hawaiian project, and we're going to be getting that going here shortly, and expand rapidly. So
we definitely talk about it a lot in the show, and being cannabis. We all talk about the healing capabilities of it, the different cannabinoids that it has, the terpenes that it has, but a lot of people don't realize that there's some other plants that have very common similarities with the healing powers, right? Which we talk about to a lot of herbalists and things like that. Back in the day, it's kind of like the whole witchcraft thing. Like, how can someone get healed from a plant?
Right. The chaga is a big one. So the chaga has the most antioxidants of anything on earth. So I mean, it's got over 200. Blueberries have 8. So
right, yeah.
So I'm a.
Well, that's what we talk about with cannabis, right? And here we go back to the vape cart issue. We're not big supporters of the vape carts here, guys. We're not going to lie. Never have been really since the first inception of it came out. Especially because the first inception we had the glycol issues, right? Because everything came from the cigarette industry banning glycol, so all flooded the cannabis market. So then we had glycols we had to deal with, right? But then I learned a lot about the processing and how that whole process affects the cannabinoids of the plant, right? So like when I see these dispensaries selling vape carts, it's not like if you want to do it recreationally, knock yourself out, do whatever you want. That doesn't bother me. But if we're trying to help patients, like what is a vape cart doing? Within that process of a CO2 or ethanol extraction, you just eliminated about 80% of the cannabinoids. You're only giving them 5 to 10 cannabinoids per thing. Now maybe you've made the concentration a little bit higher, but not really. You've just taken everything else out of the way, right? So it's not like you really managed to make anything better for you. You just took a lot of stuff out of the way, and now you put it into a cart that now we've seen recently that health wise it's not that good for you. Still, the thing that kind of blows my mind is we're pulling these vape carts off the cars, but we got to look at the nicotine industry, the cigarette industry as well, because they're killing more people every day than we've even lost so far in this small vape car epidemic. Not to say any lives are being taken for granted, but we got to look at the big picture here. You know what I mean? It seems like we're getting a lot of attention on this right now. A, partially due because of the hot button topics. B, because of the election season coming up. And C, it's everybody's scared of it. Nobody knows. There's still that stigma out there. You know what I mean? There's no testing. But we know 80 years ago, what was the number one thing found in all medications? Basically, it was cannabis. But you can also find cocaine and heroin and all that other stuff in your medicines.
Coca-Cola even had cocaine in it.
Right. So, that's what kills us when we sit back and everyone's like, oh, we need more. We need to know more. We need to know more. We need more testing. We need more testing. But then the government gives you one school in the whole United States that makes, Mexican weed look good. And then we're supposed to test that, right? It's all bad. You know what I mean? It's a weird industry that we're in right now. But kudos to you guys for doing what you guys are doing, man, because it's not easy to, take a strain, do what you guys have done with this, basically. I mean, like we said, it's literally one of the top 4 or 5 strains that everybody talks about. Everybody wants Kush. It's either Kush, diesel, cheese, you know what I mean, chem. It's like, it's literally what we're all aspiring to find, plus skunk. So if anybody has any skunk out there, I think, you know what I mean?
Old Florida skunk.
Right?
Maybe your buddy that has the Gainesville Green has a skunk too.
He may. Yeah, but Rick Naya, man,
Rick Naya.
Yeah, he's a huge advocate here in New England, living out in New Hampshire. You know, he's been credited for the Gainesville Green when he was back living in Gainesville, Florida for many years.
How old is he?
Oh, Rick, he's got to be probably in his late 50s, 60s?
Early 60s, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, so great person to know. He's been in a few magazines. Like I said, he's been on the show a bunch of times, and he's, you know, we give our hats off to Rick. He's a huge advocate here in the East Coast.
Keep the Gainesville Green alive,
right? But that's the thing. It's like, you know, and you nailed it, Matt. You know, we were talking about a little bit earlier with people that are claiming to be these cultivators, these world-class growers, these geneticists, right? And you kind of nailed it. Like, nobody's back-crossing this stuff. No one's taking it back to the original origin. What I think is kind of cool in the last 3 or 4 years is, you know, it seemed like we all kind of overgrew it. Kind of like we were talking about in the 90s, right? Where, you know, you came up with a Kush, and now you made 5 more offsprings of it, and then those offsprings went off and made 20 more offsprings, and next thing you know, it's like rabbits. You know what I mean? You got little baby Kushes running around everywhere, right? And now it seems like with the turn of events in this country, it seems like we're all trying to go back to find the original rabbit, right? You know what I mean? You know how hard it is to find that original rabbit? And when we're back crossing, we're trying to get back to those land race strains from the 70s that High Times, you know, used to publish about and show us pictures of, which was the ugliest weed you've ever seen in your life.
Oh yeah. I had some really old. I had the first 5 High Times in my dispensary on display, and the weed in those magazines were so horrible.
Right. I mean, and then you know, we talk about the THC levels being higher, and you know, everything gets a little better. Technology is going to make it a little better. We got LEDs on plants that you know 20 years ago you guys never even dreamed of, right? And the way these plants are being approached, and nowadays there's so many options between lighting, nutrient systems, even your soil. You know, you go hydro, you can go live soil, you can do all this, everything you need to do.
You know, that's why I say that anybody that calls themselves a master grower is probably not. Because I don't believe that anybody that is a master grower would ever call themselves a master grower, because there's always something new to learn. Right. There's always something new to learn, and you're never going to be a master.
No.
You're growing plants. You can only do what the plants let you do to them.
Yeah, Bubba actually shreds their applications if they put master grower on there.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, it's like being a chef. If you're a chef, like I was a chef for many years, man, and people are always like, you're a chef. I'm like, well, no, you know, I mean, like, there's 900 ways to cook that egg. How do you cook yours?
Well, there's a agency that gives you accreditation for, you know, mastering different levels of chef or cooking, you know. But there is nobody doing that in the grow world. Like, who called you a master grower? Who gave you that accreditation?
Right.
Yourself?
Especially in this day.
You called yourself that.
Well, especially in this day and age, I mean, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon to make a buck. So we see all these master growers, we see all these consultants, we've seen everything from grow consultants to business consultants to even expo consultants. I met an expo consultant. Like, what the heck is that? So the industry is ripe with all this stuff right now. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, there's been a lot of people like you guys have been around for 20, 30 years that don't want to come out yet either. You know what I mean? It's a little scary for them, or they've faced the jail time. They've had the law down their back. Have you guys ever been affected by the law?
No, scared to death.
I'll answer that. I'll go first, Bubba. Yeah, so I was actually prosecuted over 10 years ago on a major grow here in Alaska, and they were on my property for 6 months without search warrants. So after $25,000 plus, I was able to get my case dropped. But yeah, I've gone through all that, and been prosecuted and had, the guys come in with machine guns with my kids and the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, I've been down that road. I don't want to go down that road again. And that's why it was so nice to keep cannabis legal. So,
right. I mean,
I've been fortunate enough not to ever get nabbed.
I mean, we've talked to a lot of people who've been nabbed. We have a good friend of the show, to me and Brandon personally, who's been nabbed, who's had house fires, who I just heard this morning get nabbed again in a huge way. I don't want to pre-jump anything before I talk to my friends, but out in Arizona, we've had one of our big friends just get nabbed, I guess, yesterday, today. So, I mean, it's still out there. Which leads me to my next segment, because, guys, we do have Timothy Fair on from Vermont Cannabis Solutions. He was previously, he was taken away from the show a little bit in a meeting or something, right, Tim? What were you doing?
We just finished speaking up at a Vermont Law School symposium on agriculture and sustainability in the cannabis industry. It was a great little panel we just had.
Nice. Well, again, I appreciate your time as always. You're here this week. This week we have, it's a great show. We have Matt Bubba Kush on, Jeff Wells on, cultivators a long time. Like I was just asking them if they've
That's a legends,
right? Which is unreal that Matt's never had any sort of run-ins with the law. You know what I mean? Especially when we have our lawyer on.
I've had some close calls, that's for sure.
Right?
I got dangerous out of a country, but I don't want to name what country that is in case they're listening and won't let me back in.
Yeah, I've almost been busted a few more times just blowing transformers off the electrical poles.
I've blown tons. I've had really scary things happen.
Right.
I thought I was getting busted. I mean, all the way down to like, dude, should we chop our plants down? You're like nervous for 3 days. Man, we should have chopped the plants. They're watching us.
Right.
Most dangerous part of the cannabis plant. Cops coming in and shooting you. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Seriously, right? So I had Tim, I had a great article, and this week we're talking about a golfer here. Now, we've talked about some athletes and sports before. Pro golfer gets suspended for the second time for using legal medical cannabis with a card from being able to play. Obviously, how does this work, Tim? I mean, I know we beat a dead horse every week when we bring up these issues, because it's always kind of the same answer, right? It's just a new issue, same answer. But do any of these guys have any sort of repercussions for this?
No, absolutely not, for various reasons. A, the existence of cannabis as a Schedule I controlled substance on the federal level still precludes any sort of protections for medical patients. And playing a sport as a member of whether it's, the PGA, whether it's the NFL, whether it's NBA, by playing for those leagues, you agree to a list of conditions of things you can and cannot do. And unfortunately, THC, the cannabis plant, any whole plant medicine falls under that ban, and what's really frustrating, a lot of these athletes aren't even using THC. They're using whole plant CBD, and the trace amounts of THC that can be found in any whole plant extract are what's triggering these positive drug results. Yep. And look at the NFL right now. It's just absolutely mind-boggling that you have these instances of players being injured, of players in pain, of players putting themselves week after week into this situation where their bodies are just getting pummeled. We have a viable medicine that can be working for them, that can be helping them, and instead they're feeding them Percocets, they're feeding them Vicodins, they're feeding them OxyContin. It's just literally
their
insane.
livers.
Right.
Yeah, it's horrible. I agree.
Literally,
yeah,
I mean,
I think the NHL is the only one that's really accepted the whole cannabis thing as far as the CBD level goes.
Absolutely.
That's totally right.
They're the most progressive.
Yeah, that's totally right. It has been the NHL is the only one that allows their players to use CBD. There's been reports that now the winter meetings here, now that the football season, we're kind of halfway through football season, they're going to have a winter meeting where they're going to discuss CBD being used in NFL. And like we said last week, we just saw the partnership between Robert Kraft, Rob Gronkowski, and another CBD company to bring CBD to the forefront of the NFL by having a team partnership. And as we all know, Massachusetts, obviously New England Patriots play in Massachusetts. There is a legal market down there. So here's where it becomes, again, an interesting issue from, people being how does it remain legal? How do these players not lose millions of dollars in revenue that they get because they got suspended, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of interesting things on that.
Well, interestingly enough, too, in Massachusetts, THC edibles are legal, but CBD edibles are actually not legal in Massachusetts.
Right, and they're supposed to be pulled from the shelves, too, right?
Laws from state to state.
A lot of these laws do change state from state. Massachusetts right now is one that we see that are being very responsive to the Farm Bill, right? Because they've absolutely put out reports to pull CBD products, edible CBD products, from the shelves.
Correct. That's the FDA's opinion position right now, is that CBD in food products is illegal, and I use quotes around that. Of course, states like Vermont have completely ignored that. States like Massachusetts have decided to follow it and pull all their CBD edibles, which is pretty ridiculous since you can get a 300 milligram brownie.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, no, it's amazing how backwards that is. Which is another thing I wanted to ask you, because Tim, I don't know if you saw this, but Baker appeals a judge's order to alter the 4-month vaping ban. So he's got a 4-month vaping ban on the table that they're not willing to alter. Which we talked about, is this a good or bad thing? But now we're seeing these reports on the vaping crisis, and they're kind of narrowing it down to some of these stores and these shops, right?
That is. They're starting to narrow it down. They're starting to figure out. But, the thing to keep in mind is there's not going to be one answer. They're not going to say, it is thing A that causing the vaping crisis. This is a conflux of factors. It's the vitamin E acetates. It's the poor metals coming from China. It's the pesticides and the additives and the adulterants that are being added by counterfeit cart makers. There's several factors, and that's what they're going to figure out, is that if there's one silver bullet to this, it's not what's in the cartridge, it's regulation.
Right.
It's creating a regulated system by which we have consumer protection, we have third-party independent testing standards. That is what is going to solve the vaping crisis, not identifying one of the multitude of bad actors that are contributing to the issues we're seeing.
Right. I mean,
these guys are buying their stuff off Alibaba.
Right.
I've seen the inside. I've seen videos of the inside of these factories in China that are making these pens, and the level of quality control that Double Barrel uses and doses, it's amazing. They have 2 quality control appointed people standing over every one factory worker at all times watching it. I mean, that's the level of regulation that needs to go into these things. But that's a rarity. That's a rarity in the industry.
Right. I mean,
it's a race to the bottom. It's a race to the cheapest product you can get. It's a race to the cheapest cartridge, the cheapest metals, and if it's lead or if it's mercury or if it's leaching into so what? We don't care. It's a race to the bottom. If I can get those empty cartridges for 4 cents less, 5 cents less, 6 cents less, that's more profit for me, and what the end result is. Unfortunately, that's the mentality right now.
Right, and part of the problem is I think a lot of these companies don't mean to aren't trying to harm anybody. You know what I mean? They're just buying a product, like we said. They go on Alibaba and they need 1,000 carts today. They go order 1,000 of the cheapest carts they can find. Those carts come in, they're seeping, their metals are seeping, and their solders are seeping. And once you get that thing hot, now it's poisonous, right? So I don't think people have the intentions of hurting anybody in some of these cases.
I agree.
I mean, sometimes people don't care. They want to make that buck as fast as they can, and we've seen, people sitting on 70,000 vape carts that are technically illegal and harmful to other people. So, it's kind of like the fentanyl thing. Do you really think people want to kill people? Who knows? You know what I mean? I can't answer that question, but I don't think anybody really wants to. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you, Joe, and I think the way you can see this and back up what you're saying there is that there are millions of people vaping with no problem.
Right, and we have been for a while now,
these illnesses are of tiny tiny, tiny percentage of overall vaping. So no, I don't think that there are a lot of bad actors. The entire industry isn't full of people looking to poison people. The problem is when you do get those actors who put profits before people, who get, well, you know, I don't really care as long as I make money. There are those actors, and those few actors, who I will absolutely say are in the minority of the players in this industry, have an impact, because now you see these deaths, and realistically, if you look at numbers, this is a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of overall vape users. However, you know, a lot of deaths cause a lot of reaction. Yeah. And it's just a few bad players that can, you know, one bad apple spoils the bunch. I think that really fits in this situation.
Yep. No, I agree with that. But the thing, like, you know, me and Brandon and we've always said is, like, you know, it's kind of interesting because the industry's been around for quite a while now, the vaping industry. We haven't had these problems. All of a sudden we have a spike in problems. It's been recent, and it seems to be really just kind of in the United States, right? I mean, we're not seeing a lot of these issues outside the country right now. No. Tim, one thing I just want to talk to you real quick about, and this was something that I literally just sent you now, so hopefully you saw this article, and I want to ask you, will this send a ripple effect throughout the cannabis community? We talked about it on the news reel this morning. It was a judge tosses cannabis charge for a man who legally purchased CBD product. Now, the unique part about this is the way it got tossed. Basically, it got tossed because the state admitted that they can't tell the difference between THC or CBD through testing, which is another thing we're starting to see a lot of reports on. So a lot of these claims where we can really test the difference is not completely accurate. Will this open up a lot more cases? Because right now they're telling everybody that they can't even proceed with cases because they will not hold up in court.
We certainly hope so.
I've been waiting for all this really to start to surface. You know, hemp flower totally looks like regular flower, and I knew that it was going to start being a problem. And Florida had actually, that was why they didn't want to sell hemp flower, is because they couldn't tell the difference from the real thing. And they were only allowing people to vape until recently, which is why. So now I've been waiting to see how all this was going to unfold.
I mean, it's interesting because, like, you know, here's a judge who just threw the case out because they cannot claim or make claim to the fact that they can tell the difference, right? All these roadside tests, here's a judge that just threw it out the window, right? Now, I mean, obviously this seems to be one of the main footholds in most of these states to legalize, right? Is like, how can we tell the driving impairment when it comes to cannabis, right? As we all know, cannabis stays in our systems for months. It can stay. It stores in your fatty cells. So if you smoke something last week at a party, you could potentially pee dirty this weekend for your company, right? And then, you know, we have the same issue now. You know, we talked about this a lot, Tim, and Matt. I'm sure you know people like this. I mean, we've talked about, you know, state people who've lost their jobs because they tried CBD and they've actually have tests and they you know, have THC in their systems, right? And, you know, now whether it's they bought a bad product, a good product, or whatnot, you know what I mean? Or was it bad testing? You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, we don't want to say that, but, you know, Matt, we talked about the how accurate testing really is, you know what I mean, and then how skewed you can make it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right? So, I mean, will this open a big windfall, or is this something that just shouldn't make a dent in anything, Tim?
Well, you know, my opinion on this is this. You're going to see, you know, now judges, localities, even some counties, prosecutors in Texas who are refusing to prosecute cannabis cases because of that exact issue. They can't tell the difference between the hemp and the cannabis. My answer to that is twofold. On one part, I say good. Second part is, who cares? And I think that is what you're going to start seeing, is there's going to be no prosecution for cannabis, and if anything, the sky's not going to fall. The end of the world is not going to come. If we don't have roadside testing, the roads are not going to go crazy. Here in Vermont, we legalized the use and possession of cannabis on July 1st of 2018. All of the prohibitionists, to a line, oh my God, this is going to end the world. We don't have a roadside test. The roads are going to go crazy. People are going to be crashing and dying, and oh my God, all this gloom and doom. You know what? In the year we've had cannabis legalization, we've had fewer on-road fatalities ever in the history of the state. Now, Does that have anything to do with cannabis legalization? Of course not.
Probably.
It just so happens that this year we didn't have any accidents. The correlation is not causation, and there is no correlation between cannabis legalization and roadside accidents. It's simply not there. It is merely a red herring the prohibitionists use to stoke fear in people, because fear is the ultimate motivator.
No, it definitely is. I mean, unfortunately, that's where the state that we live in right now. What we're going to do, guys, right now is I'm going to take a quick break. I just have to run out the studio here really quick. We're going to go to Thomas Marcombe with his Grower's Guide, and we'll be right back to end the show. Guys, don't go anywhere.
Thanks as always, Joe.
Yep.
All right, I guess we got a small technical difficulty there, guys. Sorry about that. Matt, Jeff, you guys still there?
Yep, we are here.
All right, well, sorry about that. I was going to try to play that quick little clip before the end of the show that I wanted to get in for us. What we'll do now is, we're winding down to the end of the show. I would like you guys to just kind of, recap who you are, where people can find you, reach out to you, talk to you, stuff like that.
Go ahead, Bubba. Like, okay, who wants to go first? I'm sorry. Would you want me to just recap what I'm doing, who I am, or what?
Just a quick recap of what you're doing, where people can find you, how people can reach out to you. We're winding down the end of the show. We got about 5 minutes left. Then we're going to be getting out of the studio. And again, I just want to say thank you to you guys for tuning in, all the listeners, and you guys for joining us on air today. Again, Matt, Bubba Berger, and Jeff Wells. Let everybody know where they can find you guys.
You can reach out to me on at the Bubba Kush brand on Instagram. That's 2 E's, THEE, Bubba Kush, the Bubba Kush. And soon I'll be policing the Bubba Kush brand Instagram page as well. And Facebook, I'm not as much on, but that's Matt Bubba Berger.
All right.
And yeah, you'll be seeing a lot of new cool stuff coming out real soon. A lot of exciting things happening. So keep an eye on the vibe.
Right, we can't wait to see that. Again, guys, Bubba Kush Brands is coming your way. We're really excited. Hopefully, we can get you guys back on the show. We can talk about that when you guys get that launch. It'd be great. And then, Jeff, you're doing some amazing things. The Hawaii thing, the surfboard. Tell us a little bit more about all that again.
Yeah. So I got a breeding program. We're getting started over here in Hawaii, and that's going to be getting started shortly. We're still looking at different investors for that project, but You can reach out to me at Mtf Jeff Wells on LinkedIn, and then also Mtf Jeff Wells on Facebook. And and then fertileblends.com is our nutrient business that we have going that's plant-based. And so if you guys want to try some stuff that your cannabis plants will absorb highly, it's got humic and fulvic acids in it, and cannabis plants react very well to it. No salts, and really no need to flush, but we do suggest that you do flush with that system. So fertileblends.com, and then the new line will be called Fertile Blends MTF. So that's what I got going.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hey.
That's some amazing stuff, too. The Fertile Blends, it's really good stuff.
Man, I'd love to come out and see what you guys are doing. We'll have to talk again, guys, after the show about hopefully hooking up. Maybe we can come out to Hawaii. Maybe we can find some funding for this show. Let us go have some fun, some of this fun stuff. You know what I mean? Maybe record some demos and some fun stuff. Again, guys, let's talk again soon. I appreciate you coming on the show, spending some time with us talking about Kush, man. Like I said, it's to me, it's one of the top 4 things in cannabis when you think of cannabis, right? So. Congratulations to you guys for everything happening.
Bubba's the godfather of OG Kush. Bottom line.
Love it, guys. We'll talk again real soon, especially with you, Jeff, and hopefully, Matt, we can continue this conversation going again. We're going to peace out, guys. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. This is WGDR Plainfield, WGDH Hardwick, 91.1 FM and 91.7 right now. You're tuning in The Weeds. We're going to be ending the show right now with Dr. Uma, how to medicate with cannabis. With one of our greatest friends here on the show, Dr. Uma. Guys, next week, Dom Life. The whole story of Dom Life, the owner, how it happened, everything will be on. And check out our social media pages as we're going to be releasing a whole list of new shows coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Honestly, it's truly drug abuse if you don't have a clean pipe and you are using this medicine into a dirty pipe, bottom line. So it's considered drug abuse if you don't clean your pipes before you use it. Okay. That's awesome. I'm Dr. Uma Dhanabalan. I teach Medical Marijuana 101 at the Northeastern Institute of Cannabis, which has been founded by Mickey Martin. The methods for consumption of cannabis can vary from individual to individual. The first ways is through inhalation. Second is ingestion. And the third is topical. So when we speak about inhalation, we can talk about smoking or vaporization, and also the new world of dabbing. Smoking is primarily one of the most common ways people use it. Either it's smoked in a joint, rolled in a tobacco leaf, it could be used out of a pipe, it can be used through bongs, it can be consumed in various ways. Smoking is usually one of the most common ways because it is easy for people to do. We always recommend vaporization over smoking, and the reason is because smoking is just, as everybody knows, is an irritant. If you were to be sitting around a fireplace and you were around the smoke, that would be an irritant. The second way is through ingestion. And this is where my patients are amazing. I learned so much from my patients. Some people consume it with cookies. Some people use it in candies, from gummy bears to lollipops, to having patients make their butters, which they consume in their products. As far as baking it or using it in their pastas, they are making salads with the oils that they make. They can make tinctures. This is another whole amazing field. The others are topicals, and topicals are amazing, truly, for the scope, from patients that have joint pains, arthritis, to patients with rheumatism, with patients that have had phantom pain patients that have lost their limbs, where they still feel pain, they can apply it directly. Children can be using this medication. So topicals are a wonderful way to treat patients, and patients are very creative. I have had some of my patients combine their cannabis butter that they've made or their with alcohol and apply it topically. Some of my Crohn's patients even use DMSO combinations that can be used, that can penetrate. So it's a way of delivery system. Some of my patients use Tiger Balm and combine it with cannabis. Bengay, Icy Hot, whatever the mechanism to get it in to where the topicals can be applied, and they don't get any of the psychoactive effects because it is not something that's absorbed and is going to give you the psychoactive effects. So this works very well for a lot of patients that are working. They can use this medicine and function, improve their quality of life. And that's what this medicine gives. It gives patients quality of life and hope.